Hello everybody, I've just been making some bread, so I'm using the instructions on my phone to help me remember what did I need to do for the setting of the oven and how long did I have to leave it in for. Yes, as you get older, you sometimes need instructions to remind you. So this is important to this lesson because this lesson is about reading and identifying the author's purpose, why somebody has written something that you're reading. Make sure that you understand the purpose, you understand the reason why that piece of writing has been written when you're reading anything at all. So let's begin with inform. Here's a piece of information. This is informing you about the diagram, telling you what that is all about. So that's why the author's written it, to inform. How else might you inform? What about writing a discussion in an essay, a discussion where you're looking at two sides? Is informing people about your opinion. And what about that analysis? That's something we need to think about in a bit more detail and understand that if you analyse, you take something apart and identify the little pieces that make up the whole. So you're just adding different sections to help somebody understand something if you're analysing. But that's still purpose, inform. So the purpose changes according to why the writer wrote the piece. What about entertain? Well, I was reading this story today that I found really amusing, quite funny. It did entertain me, but it reminded me that not everybody has the same taste. So not everybody would find it funny. However, the writer wrote it to entertain. That doesn't change. It doesn't matter what the reader thought about it for purpose. It's about why did the writer write it. And there we have Edgar Allan Poe, who's written this really frightening story. And you know, some of us like to read stories that are horror stories. But his purpose is to entertain. And then when I turn on the television, I see lots of adverts. What's that all about? Why do we have adverts? Well, our advertisements are to persuade you to do something or maybe buy something. And I remember the Mars bar adverts from when I was a very young child. So I can remember the jingle that used to go with that. A Mars a day helps you work, rest and play, and that persuades me that maybe I might like a bit of chocolate when I'm having a break or I'm playing. Now, if you inspire, you also persuade. What about that great iconic man, Martin Luther King? Martin Luther King, his speech, I Have a Dream, is really inspiring. He wrote it to persuade people. Don't forget, we're still looking at purpose. So we've just had Halloween and I wanted to make some Halloween cookies. I needed to look at the recipe because that instructed me how to make them. So recipes, easy. Instruct. And what about if you want to give some advice? There's lots of advice at the moment about scams to make sure you keep yourself safe. But advice is the noun, it's the piece of writing or the piece of advice that's been given. To advise is your verb. That's what you're doing. You're advising somebody when you're giving them some pointers or helping them with some points. Let's have a quick recap. Think about why the writer has written the piece you're reading. Now remember, it's what the writer aims to do, not whether you think it's any good. So, entertain aims to make you enjoy the reading. Persuade aims to get you to agree with the writer. Advise to help people decide what to do. Analyse to break ideas into pieces to look at the whole idea. And argue. Yes, a good argument would give reasons to make a case for something. Lots of people know how to identify, describe because of the details. And explain when you're looking at writing how something happens and works. So make sure you revise the points that you don't know and that you make sure that you understand purpose. And in particular, look at inform and instruct. Information just tells, but instructions tells how. They are very different. And finally, one piece of reading can have more than one purpose. And our next step is to look at each purpose separately and think about the features of those texts. So good luck with your revision. Make sure you understand the vocabulary for purpose, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.